Hi, friends. This is Diana Neal, and welcome to Take Courage. I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm on with Seth Dahl, as most of you know, tonight. However, I'm just going to wait a bit to see who comes on before we get started. As you come on, let me know that you're on. Let us know where you're from, and it's going to be a great night.
Come on. Yes.
Yep, we are live. So thank you so much, Seth, for coming on with me and this amazing group of people. I'm super honored that you're here with us tonight.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome. So this group is amazing. They are hungry for Jesus and just for learning. I shared a little with you that we started last year. Take Courage really is about healing and growth and getting strategy. And so a lot of the people that are attracted to the group are hungry people that just want healing. They want to learn, they want to grow, and they're looking for strategy to get there. And so it's been amazing to have people on like yourself that come in with so much wisdom and revelation and just being able to connect and get them the resources that they're looking for.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's going to be a great night. So as you're getting on, go ahead, let me know that you're on. Hi, Sylvie. Nice to see you. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Mara. Hi, Bethany. Hi, Shauna. As you come on, go ahead, let me know that you're on. And we are going to get started in just a minute. So I'm on tonight with Seth Dahl. We're going to be talking about what this month is about, March. We're moving out of marriage and we're moving into parenting. And we're going to be talking about powerful parenting. We have some specific topics tonight, but throughout the month, we are going to be covering so much. We're going to be talking about how to lead our kids into deeper connection with God. We're going to be talking about even tonight, activating our children in the prophetic, hearing from God, in healing. And throughout the month, we're going to talk about blended families and single parenting and just so many different topics. So it's going to be an incredible night and an incredible month. So thank you so much, everyone. I know even in the past week or two, we've had so many new people join. So if you don't know who I am, I'm the host. My name's Diana Neal. And this is Take Courage, and it's going to be an awesome month. So hello to everybody that's jumping on. Hi, Darren. Hi, Rob. Hi, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started if that works for you, Seth.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
Awesome. So I'm on with Seth. For those that don't know who he is a writer and a worldwide speaker to adults and children. Seth and his wife, Lauren, they love to empower families to build a strong connection that fosters peace and a thriving family culture. Seth has over 15 years experience working with children and pastored at Bethel in Reading, their children's ministry for over 10 years. And Lauren, his wife, and their 3 children and all of their animals moved over to be a part of Bethel in Austin, Texas. You said 2 months ago?
Yep, 2 months yesterday we moved.
So they're over there now. They're helping out, and they also have some new things going on as well. However, Seth and Lauren, they love equipping families with practical and spiritual tools. So as I started introducing Seth and Lauren in the past week, you would have seen me put on, you should have saw like Win-Win Parenting. That's one of their books. And also the Win-Win e-course that's coming up as well. And they were so generous to give us a promo code, and we'll put that in the comments as well. That promo code is Courage. And so we have the different links that are right on our page, and Chris will go ahead and put those in as well. And so there's going to be some awesome discounts for that book and also for the e-course. So we would love for you to go ahead and get connected to Seth and Lauren and their ministry and what they're doing. They carry so much value. I've read your book, Seth, and I'm reading it again, and it's absolutely incredible. So thank you so much. Honored to have you on.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. And they're also Lauren, Seth's wife. She offers coaching right now as well. So if you're looking for some good parenting coaching, she is available to do that. So you can connect with Lauren and with Seth on their website. It's SethDahl.com. And so we'll have all that in the comments as well. So are you ready to get started?
Yeah, I am. That's
Okay.
cool. I'm just watching everything pop up right there.
Yeah, they'll pop up, and we're going to have question and answer time at the end. So everybody just stay on. We will open it up for live Q&A at the end. So it's going to be a great night. So save your questions for the end, and we'll go ahead and get started. Seth, do you want to start by just kind of letting us know what your e-course really entails?
Yeah, it's 26 videos. They're about 7, 8, 10 minutes long at the most, each video, but it's really designed to be very practical. Like we go through very practical ways to discipline kids, very practical ways to set the home up so it's peaceful, so we're peaceful, so our kids are peaceful. So it's just, I think my wife talks about money in there a little bit, teaching kids money. I do some of the practical discipline stuff. She does some quiet time things, just what that does for children and how to implement it in the home. So we took the book that we wrote and we just were like, how do we expound a little bit on some of the practical stuff to help parents know, like, oh, this is how to actually do this. And so that's what the e-course is, a little bit of homework in there and stuff like that as well.
That's incredible. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So as we just jump in, I wanted to start by asking you your story, your background, and what really gave you this passion for children and parents and families.
Yeah. Well, when I was a little kid, my parents got divorced. And so, I deep inside from the time I was a little child was a passion for like families staying together, husbands and wives, kids having fathers and stuff like that. Now, I would never have been able to put that into words for a long time, but I think because of that pain, that was sort of always in there. And then throughout a long series of events, I became a drug addict. And so in 2001, shortly after the World Trade Centers fell, I had a radical encounter with God. I was addicted to ecstasy, acid, coke, marijuana, cigarettes, meth, pornography, all of it, basically everything except crack, basically. And Jesus just came in and visited me and delivered me from all the drugs. And I never had a relapse. I never went to treatment. I never had a withdrawal. Like I was just a drug addict one day and the next morning I'm totally free. But somewhere in the night when Jesus came into my room, I told him, I said, if you get me out of this, I will help kids not go down the path that I went down. And that wasn't premeditated. It wasn't planned. It just sort of fell out of my mouth. And I thought, oh, I got to help kids. And so the next day I wake up totally free. And within 2 days, I meet an old friend and he says, Seth, I'm a youth pastor now. And I said, Josh, I'm a Christian now. And he said, and it was just random. And so within the week, I was in a youth group with a bunch of skater, goth, punk rock kids. And and Josh gave me a microphone and had me share my story. And so I was ministering to teenagers within a week, not even on purpose. And then I found myself, I signed up for an internship in New York City. to minister to kids in Sidewalk Sunday School. I had no idea what I was getting into, but before I knew it, I'm preaching to like 3,000 children a week. The
Wow.
entire ministry reached 20,000 kids a week, and I realized like, wow, I'm helping kids. And throughout that time, I spent a lot of time really like, talking about making bad decisions, talking about drugs, talking about stuff like that. Just all the stuff I wanted to help kids not fall into. But then
Yeah.
after moving to Bethel, I realized the reason I fell into all that was because I grew up in a home and a church where I learned about, and a Christian school. I learned about God. I knew the
Yeah.
Bible, but I didn't know the author. And I didn't,
Yeah.
you know, I just knew religion. I just knew memorize the Bible, read the Bible, pray a little bit. And so I would go back and forth with God over the years. But I finally realized like, wow, the path I'm not trying to help kids go down is not choices. Like, yeah, choices are all a result of me not actually knowing God, me having religion, not a relationship. And so the path I wanted to help kids not go down was knowing about God, but not knowing him. And so that's sort of, I don't necessarily know how it got in there, but this heart for kids and families is just, it came out of my mouth. And
Wow.
that was since 2002. So late 2001, early 2002 is when all this happened. And so, that's like, we're going on 18 years here. I've done nothing but work with kids. I went straight into full-time ministry, straight into, just working with
Wow.
kids at a
Yeah.
crazy rate, learning, work, in New York City, it was all broken families, very broken, very hurting, all in the
Wow.
ghetto. None of it was anywhere nice. It was all in the ghetto. It was all broken homes, a lot of homeless kids, a lot of homeless parents, a lot of drug addicts. And that was intense. And then working at Bethel was a lot more healthy families,
Yeah.
but learning what are the things that keep kids from getting to those places? How do we heal the damage that's been done for broken homes, for really, just destroyed families? And then how do we help nourish the ones that are more healthy? And so, yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of the story slash how I got the heart. And
Yeah, that's incredible. So did you and Lauren meet? When did you and Lauren meet?
we met at Bethel. So we've been married almost 11 years. We got
Okay.
3 kids, the 2 horses, the 3 dogs, the 1 cow, chickens and bees. We got all kinds of stuff happening. But yeah, so we met 13 years ago. We met 2002, no, 2006. So 14 years ago we met, and we've been married almost 11 years.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so did Lauren have that same passion
Not
before you had met?
not really. She is not a kids person really. She loves our kids, but you
Yeah.
can put me in a room with 1,000 kids and I feel comfortable and fine. You put her in a room with 10 kids and she's really good at her own children, and
Yeah.
she loves that, but not at all what I've done, not one
Yeah.
bit. So she didn't really even help in kids ministry because there's just hundreds of kids everywhere all the time.
Yeah. Overwhelming.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have that passion in that area.
Yeah.
But awesome that she has the passion for coaching
Yeah.
and equipping parents.
Yeah.
That's a
Family.
huge piece of this. And
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm just
My
curious,
favorite story.
what'd you say?
That's my favorite story to tell. So
Yeah, it's incredible. So, in your book, I know you talk a lot about cultivating peace
yeah.
and freedom
Yeah.
in your home. So I wondered if you could just start out by talking about that in a practical way. What are some of the things that you have done or that you coach parents in
Yeah.
to cultivate an environment of peace and freedom?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I could talk forever on this, but one of the things I've seen a lot is, kids grow up with low level anxiety when children are put in control of the home. So how that plays out practically is a kid gets really angry, starts yelling, fighting with their sibling, yelling at their parents. And so they come at their parents with this tone of voice that's way up here, super angry, super frustrated, screaming, volumes high, emotions are high, and the parents respond with the same tone of voice. So
Yeah.
we think that's normal, and it is common, but it's not. It's not healthy, because what happens is the kid comes in here, they're already out of control. They're already angry. They're not in self control. They're super frustrated, whatever it is, their sibling or whatever. So they're already coming in out of control. But if we allow their tone of voice to decide our tone of voice, we've just given them full control of us. So now
Yes.
we've relinquished control of ourselves to our kids, and basically told our kids, my tone of voice just told you you're now in control of the home. Everything that you do affects what we do. How you treat us, how you treat your brother and sister, decide how we treat you, and the tone of voice we use and everything. So you're now in control of the home. And so part of the way to create a peaceful home is to make sure that everybody understands
Mhm.
we are here to develop the fruit of the Holy Spirit in us and our children, which one of those is self-control. So it's
Yeah.
not my job to control my kids. It's my job for me to control me. And it's not my job for my kids to control me. It's my job for me to teach my kids to control themselves. And the only way I really do that is if I learn how to stay in control of me. So no matter what tone of voice they're using, I can stay in peace. I can stay calm. Now, are we perfect at this? Absolutely not. No one's flawless at this, but there is a lot of stuff you can do to set yourself up where it's like, you know what, you can come in screaming hot all day. And I've learned how to stay down here so that, nope, they come in here, I stay down here, and I actually help them come back down and get back in self-control, because I refused to control them, I controlled me. And so I think part of creating a peaceful home is realizing like peace is only there's only real peace when everyone's in control of themselves. If I have to control someone, there's not peace, because deep inside I'm telling them what to do, potentially making them do things they don't want to do, um, which is always an element of life. Sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do, but how we go about that can either bring anxiety or bring peace. And yeah, so I feel like I could talk about it all day, but I think that control issue is the biggest of them all. Is I don't know how to control me, so I give children control of the house, which causes anxiety in them, and then a cycle of anxiety in all of us, and a lack of peace because we're all out of control. If I'm not in
Mhm.
control of me and my kids are, I'm out of control. They're out of control because they already were anyway. And so that's where peace gets pushed out the door when
Mhm.
we try to control other people instead of ourselves.
Yeah, that's really good. So, Seth, on a practical note, I'm like picturing this.
Mhm.
If one of your children were to get loud,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
and they're out of control in that moment, they're angry, they're emotional. Um, what I'm hearing you say, you're saying, I'm controlling me, I'm staying in self-control,
yeah,
I manage my internal peace,
yeah,
and that takes this atmosphere and
yeah,
takes my child down
yeah,
to that place of like peace as well.
yeah,
At some point.
yeah.
Now, you and I mean, I know it's different every situation. Would you ever, like on a practical note, say something like, I can't really talk to you right now when you're up here. So when you're ready to come down here, then we can talk.
Yeah.
Or would you even say, like, I'm not, you're yelling right now, and that's not acceptable. It's not respectful. Like,
Here's
where
yeah.
are you at
Here's the language I use with that. So they come in here and I say, "Hey, I would really love to help you. Let's talk when your voice sounds like mine." So sometimes kids, especially when they're worked up and you say, "Hey, let's talk when you're calm." They're
now?
not in they're like, I'm just angry. I don't know what that means. So I say, when your voice sounds like mine. So I'm providing to them the tone of voice I want from them. So I'm staying down here, they're up here. Hey, let's talk. I want to help you. I want to work this out. Let's talk when your voice sounds like mine. And then they'll come down a little bit. Say, okay, you're getting closer, a little bit closer. Come on down to it. Sounds like this. Now with the little guys, we have a 3-year-old, And so with the little guys, like I don't just provide the tone I want from him, I provide the words I want from him. So he'll come in the kitchen and be like, milk, I want milk. And I'll say, hey, try this. Daddy, milk, please. And he'll say, Daddy, milk, please. And I'll say, here you go, buddy. Or something. Daddy, pick me up. I'm like, all right, try this. Hey, Daddy, will you pick me up? Daddy, wait. So I give him the tone and the words. So I'm actually training him to say the things I want. One thing we got to remember with kids is like this is the natural progression. They come out of babies where they scream and yell for everything. So I got a poopy diaper. What do? I scream and yell and cry. I'm hungry, scream and yell and cry. I'm scared, scream and yell and cry. I'm thirsty, scream, yell and cry. I'm tired, scream, yell and cry. So that's normal. But what happens is if we don't make that transition when they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, eventually we have a bunch of grown-ups that think the way I get things done is to get mad, scream, yell, cry, fuss, and
Wow.
then and so part of this is we're transitioning out of being babies into being grown-ups that can interact on a really healthy level where it's like I come in screaming for the milk. Why? Because when I was 1, that's what I did. I screamed. I wanted milk. I screamed, and you gave me milk. And so
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, try this. So now I'm retraining them. Hey, it was good to scream and yell and cry when you were a baby, but now this is how you talk. So, that's the language I use with the little
Yeah.
guys 4 and under. It's like, hey, try this,
Yeah.
Daddy. My sister is yelling at me, or my sister took my toy. Daddy, my sister took my toy. Okay, what do you need? I need you to make her give it back. Well, have you told her how you feel, or have you told her what to do? I told her what to do. Okay, so for me, it's staying in the tone of voice, providing the words, and asking questions. Like here's what's important: if you ask kids questions, you force them out of emotional land and into logic and reason. Where it's like you start asking them questions and they have to think for themselves. Why? Because you're not controlling them and you're not going to do the thinking for them. You're not even going to tell them exactly what to do all the time. And so it's like you snap them right out of emotional craziness into like, I actually have to think about this. What do I need? What? I need my toy back. Okay.
Right.
Have you asked her for it back? No, I just yelled at her. Okay. Did that work? No. Okay. So just forcing them, a 3-year-old
Yeah.
can have that conversation. A 4 year
Yes.
old can have it, but asking questions and providing the tone and the words.
Hmm.
I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like I could just go on and on. So I'm trying to.
No, that's powerful. Thank you so much. And I feel like it leads me into something I was actually going to ask later on, but I feel like this is a good moment for it. I feel like in a lot of our homes, we grew up where like obedience was demanded
Yeah.
and respect was demanded.
Yeah.
And years back, I started reading a book, actually, Loving Your Kids on Purpose.
Yeah.
And it was about more about building connection,
Yeah.
and out of that connection and connecting with the child's heart, that like a natural respect would flow out of that place
Yeah.
rather than demanding respect, demanding obedience now. And I just wanted to get your perspective on that because I know that a core value of you and Lauren's is connection,
Yeah.
foster that with your children and in families.
Yeah.
So can you talk to me about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, connection. So even with discipline and even what we talked about before, like, hey, I want to help you. Let's talk when your voice sounds like mine. I'm disciplining them. I'm leading them. I'm training them. I'm correcting them. I'm adjusting them. But the way I'm doing it is designed to protect our heart connection, to protect our relationship, not just, hey, do what I say because I said so because I'm your parent. Now, does that mean there's never a time to be like, no, you need to trust me? I said, no, you need to trust me. No, that's always there. But it's really easy for them to trust you in those moments when the connection is there. So it's like, and I've talked about this a lot. It's like sometimes our kids don't even need us to correct them. They need us to go connect with them and they'll self-correct. It's like, oh, a lot of your misbehavior is you begging me for some attention. It's you begging me for some time. And the reason you're acting like that is because you're screaming in a weird way for some attention. And so if I can purposely build that connection and give you the attention that you need and fill that, a lot of the behavior Of course, there's always going to be interesting behavior with our kids, but some of the really crazy stuff just isn't there. So
Yeah.
connection's super important. You know, it's like my wife yesterday. She's like, we need to get our. I need to connect with Brooklyn. I haven't connected with her since we moved, really. And so Lauren took her to this little shop. They had these little pastries. They sat outside. They took the dog. The dog's sitting there. They're just rocking in rocking chairs, eating these pastries. And it's like my daughter comes home and she's like just good, happy to be home. You know,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of stuff, like that's the thing, you know, with connection, what you have with your kids is the ability to influence them. Without
Mm-hmm.
connection, all you're limited to is trying to control them. And so think about even God all the way back at the beginning. Like if God's first goal was obedience,
Mm-hmm.
he would have made sure it was a lot harder for them to disobey. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, hey,
Yeah.
don't eat from the tree, but there it
Mm-hmm.
is. It's right there. Hey, by the way, there's a snake. He didn't even tell them there was a snake coming. Like, you know, it's like
Right.
the Lord could have been like, hey, there's a snake coming. He's going to try to get you to eat from the tree. Don't eat from the tree. Just avoid the snake and you'll be fine. No, he doesn't even prep them for that. And he doesn't remove the bad choice. He actually leaves the bad choice there because he's not trying to control them and make them obey him. He actually wants them to obey for a different reason. He wants obedience, but because of love. You know, it's like the Bible even says in First John chapter 5, it's like this is loving God, that you obey His commands. But
Mm-hmm.
obedience comes from love. Like it's easy to obey when we have love. It's a lot harder to obey when we don't. You know, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
building that into our kids, where it's like I'm not here to control you. I'm not here to make you make the right decision. I'm here to influence you. So hopefully you figure out how to make the right decisions. And we do it little by little as you're a child, when it's candy,
Mm-hmm.
when it's fast food, when it's losing a toy, when it's losing a TV show, so that by the time they're older and it's guns and drugs and gangs and bad
Yeah.
friends and the way they dress, they're able to make choices that protect our heart. They're able to make choices that protect themselves because they care about themselves and they care about us. So they actually work to protect us. Where without the connection, it's like, and without training them little by little by little by little, it's like they get there and they don't have a clue what they're doing because they've just been forced to obey all the time.
Right.
And that's
Absolutely.
and that's Danny Silk and Loving Our Kids on Purpose. I think one of the things she says is like a lot of what we call rebellion is just our kids begging for a little bit of power back in their own life. It's not really
Yeah.
rebellion. It's them going, let me make a choice. Let me teach me how to make choices. Don't force choices on me. Let me
Yes.
learn the hard way. Let me eat from the tree I'm not supposed to. So
Yeah.
it let me eat the candy and learn, wow, I got a stomach ache. Let
Yeah.
me learn that. I
Yeah.
think so. Oh man, it's again. I feel like I can go on about this stuff, but
Yeah.
that's a huge factor, is building connection with our kids. There's times where I feel the Lord say, "Hey, you need to stay up late and rub your kids back and tell them stories." Okay, so tonight I'm not gonna put him. I'm gonna put him to bed, but I'm gonna lay there in there with him, and I'm gonna snuggle
Yeah.
him and rub his back and tell him stories, and not be in a rush to get out of there because he
Mm-hmm.
needs that. So I also call them, there's a way, I call this the big chargers and small chargers. So, like on a phone,
Yeah.
like the Apple phone, unless you get the iPhone Pro, it comes with that little tiny charger, and it takes
Yeah.
forever for your phone to charge. But if you just get a bigger box, same cord, same battery, but that box has the potential to charge that phone super fast. So like my new phone came with a bigger box. I'm like, dude, my phone can charge from 0 to 100 in no time compared to that little box. I'm like,
Yeah.
finding out what those big chargers are, whether it's with
Yeah.
our wife, or our husband or our kids, where it's like, what, for my daughter, taking her to a little pastry shop for an hour is a huge charger. That thing in 1 hour, it will charge her for weeks, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
But taking her somewhere else, like taking her to a movie, doesn't connect the same with her. Reading a book with her, big charger. Movie, small charger. Playing outside, big charger. It refreshes her fast. It reconnects us faster. So I think that's important too. Knowing our kids individually and like what it actually is that connects quicker, faster, stronger, that helps.
Mhm. That's incredible. Yeah, just I love that. I love that analogy because I know for me, like I've had to study my son in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
And even for me, like he's now in adolescence and I had to shift my parenting and I'm still learning how to do that. Like how do I relate with him now? Because it almost seemed like he went into sixth grade and it seemed like he shifted dramatically
yeah,
almost immediately, and I'm like, "Wow, what is this?" But
yeah,
it's me studying him, and also I do like you had said, you're listening to God, and God might say, "Okay, tonight I want you to lay with them and rub their back a little longer." And that's something that I really started doing because honestly, I felt like before adolescence hit, "Oh, I have parenting down. I'm doing great."
yeah,
And then this hit and I'm like, I don't really know him. Like that's how I started to feel. So I started asking God questions. What does he need?
yeah,
What does Caden need tonight?
yeah.
Or what is Caden really wanting right now? What's going to make him feel loved? And it's so cool to be able to ask God and he shares that with us. And then we do that and we see the shift.
Yes.
And I know for my son, he's huge quality time and a heart connection kid.
Yeah,
He wants me to ask him, how's your heart? He likes those deep conversations,
yeah,
and he much rather do that over an ice cream or even on the couch than me saying, hey, you want to watch a show together?
yeah,
He's like,
yeah,
that's
totally.
important.
Yep. And
So,
I love it. Like that's the advantage that we have as believers is like we have access to the Father. And he's
yeah,
like, I've had God do that with me many times where he's like, buy your son this thing for Christmas. And I'm like, oh, okay. I totally wouldn't have bought him that right now, but I buy it for him. And it's like, it is amazing what happens. And he wants it. He's like the ultimate parenting hack is that we have
yeah,
access to the best father ever. And he knows all of our kids individually so specifically. And he can say, here's what your daughter needs. Here's what your son needs. Here's what your other son needs. Do that. And it all
yeah.
works because he knows them perfectly.
Because he knows. Yeah, it was incredible. This week, God gave me a dream, and it was insight to something happening in my son. And
Yeah.
I woke up and I told my husband Chris about it. And I was like, I love God. Like, he's amazing that he gave me that piece of insight to be able to really know something deep that's a desire and something going on in him.
Yeah.
And it is our advantage. That's an awesome way to say it.
Yeah.
Um, we have
We
that
have the
advantage.
unfair advantage. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something else too, Seth. You talk in your book about routines, habits, and values.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to ask you, this is personal for myself
Yeah.
and for the group. But so Chris and I told you, I had shared with you, we got married. We're just celebrating our first year anniversary. And so we're in what you would call, I guess, a blended family.
Yeah.
And so I have a 12-year-old, and so Chris and I were now parenting together, and it's been a transition this year. And so before, and I love transparency, and this group is about
Yeah.
transparency. So before, to me, my parenting was like peace and freedom and fun, and like,
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, I had routines and some structure and whatnot. But when Krish came in the picture, he's amazing at more like routine,
Yeah.
discipline, structure, really implementing like values
Yeah.
and different things. Like, and in his family, he has an incredible family. So, like, he knew why they were doing what they were doing, right? And
Yeah.
like, there was a value or a principle behind everything. And for me, I grew up in a more dysfunctional home,
Yeah.
and we didn't have a lot of those things in our house. So we come from very different backgrounds. We're learning, we're growing together. However, I look at Krisha's ways as very like restrictive. taking out the fun. And obviously, even for Caden in this year, that's a big adjustment.
Yeah.
Like, wow, now I have this, now I have this. What's happening? But even this week, I sent Chris a message and said, thank you so much for what you brought to our family. Like, there are things that I didn't even realize were missing, but I know that these things are setting Caden up for success.
Yeah.
And two coming together, it's awesome. But my question for you is, why are routines and habits and values important in the family dynamic, and how do we like identify them for our own families?
Yeah. Routines are really important. I feel for me that when I have a routine and I do certain things at certain times and I get those things done, they actually free me to be more spontaneous. So when I'm trying to be just spontaneous, and this is me personally, so I'll just share personally, like Lauren is very much like Chris. So she's like, wake up, feed the horses, make sure they have water, walk the dog. Like I've had to learn that because I was like, yeah, fly by the seat of my pants for a really long time. Just go wherever you feel like going, whenever. And so
Yeah,
I'm more like you in that sense. But um, yeah, I think for me, it became really apparent when it's like, okay, we have 3 kids. I run a couple different teams. I lead a couple different teams. I'm very busy at church. I have also a traveling ministry. So I'm like church, family, lots of work, lots of people, lots of meetings, lots of travel. And at the same time, like, how do I keep a healthy family? Because my values are healthy. My value is family. So like, my value is first my family, not my ministry. And so how do I make sure I'm protecting my family and myself so that I'm not coming home exhausted, not coming home totally worn out? And I realized, like, man, I got to get some better routines in my life. It's like I had the routine of just staying up late on my phone or whatever, working all late, bringing work home. Like I just had a routine and didn't even know it was there. It's like, oh man, I'm just working all the time. So it's like,
yeah,
oh, I need a different routine with my phone. I need a different routine with my sleep. If I don't wake up, once you have kids, like, man, we had our 3 kids, and it's like I have zero time to myself. I leave
yeah,
I leave home with 3 small children, and I go to work where there are thousands of people everywhere all the time pulling on you,
yeah,
trying to meet with, not thousands trying to meet with you, but there's all
right,
those factors going on all the time, speaking a lot. And I need time to, it's like I can't just have time with God just for a sermon. I need time with God for me, and my sermons come from that. So
yeah,
I had to really, like, I got to the point where I'm like, I'm not doing that well because I got so much on my plate, and the way I'm actually living is not representing what I say I value most. And so,
yeah,
so I realized, like, you know what? I'm gonna put the kids in bed, and I'm gonna go to bed early, and I'm gonna not I'm not gonna be on my phone all late at night, and I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna wake up at 5 in the morning. I just for now I'm at 5:30, but I used to get up at 5 o'clock every day, and I'd have an hour with my Bible, an hour, and I'm just like, me and the Lord are in sync. I work out, I drink my water, I drink my coffee. So I started implementing these routines. I made myself become a morning person, and by the time my children woke up, I'm like, and I'm just being vulnerable. Like you say, I value transparency and vulnerability too. So I'm like, I found myself in this place where I realized if I didn't make a change real fast, I was going to be woken up in the morning by my children standing at the side of the bed saying, "Daddy, I'm hungry." And I would have thought I would rather sleep, or I would rather read my Bible. And if I didn't make a change quick, it would very soon be my children are now an interruption to the things I really want to do instead of being what I really want, being the things I really want to do. And so I'm like, wow, when I put these routines in place, like my kids will wake up and like, I've already had 2 hours with the Lord. Like I've had 2 hours with the Lord. I've wrote 4 sermons. Some days I write 4 messages because he just give them to me in my time
Yeah.
with him, or I have new ideas for new businesses and new things and new, like I would just come out of this like I'm on fire. Now I'm like, I've done everything I feel like I really need to do for Seth. And I put routines in place that make Seth a healthy person. So I'm automatically a better husband because my wife is not interrupting me from my time with God. My kids are not interrupting me from my time with God. My job is not interrupting me with my time with God. I need quiet time by myself. So my kids and my wife and my job aren't interrupting Seth time and dreaming time and all that. And I realized, like, wow, me putting some structure in place and some routines in place freed me to do all the other stuff where it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
had to just take care of myself. And so Lauren's always been better at that than me, but I've just forced myself to. And after a while, I was like, I'm just like, now I got this. Like now it's normal for me.
Yeah.
So I love routines. So the Bible says God didn't give us the spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind, which also means self-discipline. So if
Yeah.
I don't have self-discipline, it's actually a spirit from the Lord, a spirit of self-discipline that also gives me a sound mind. So how do I stay peaceful? Discipline, self-discipline, giving myself things to do. In the churches that are very charismatic or free or spirit led or all that, which I'm like, I'm spirit led as they get. Like, and the Holy Spirit is also the spirit of self discipline, and He'll like help you tell yourself what to do, when to do it, how to do it, so that you are your best you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I had to tell our church like discipline and routine and structure. Those are not cuss words. To the
Right.
spirit led people, sometimes that feels like cuss words. Like, no, freedom and
Right.
spontaneity. I'm like, well, I'm way more free and spontaneous because I've already put these things in my, I've already drank like 4 glasses of water, worked out, had time with God. I've done all this stuff, and I'm like, I'm ready for the world. Like, I'm ready for anything now. I can give me whatever you want to give me, and I'm gonna go to bed at 8:30 at night, right after my kids go to bed, and I'll wake up at 5 and do it all again. And I'm so
Yeah.
free to be spontaneous now because of that.
That's incredible.
So that's just my yes, and I think it's important to put that in with our kids because
Hmm.
it's like, hey, the more routine they have, it's not it's forming habit structures of thinking. So that's the word stronghold. Mike Bickle from IHOP, he says the word stronghold, which is typically in the Bible used as a bad thing. Like, there's a bad stronghold. You can also have good strongholds. And he defines the word stronghold as a habit structure of thinking. So it's the way we think that
Hmm.
habitually that creates structures internally that can house the demonic or be a safe place for the demonic or a safe place for God and house God and keep the demonic out. It's a fortress, a stronghold either against the enemy or for the enemy based on what we're agreeing with, based on what we're thinking. And so
Wow.
structures can actually create habits of thought, habits of lifestyle that's like, and if you tell your kids why we're doing certain things, why do we do
Hmm.
this? Why do we eat like this? Why do we go to bed at this time? Why don't we play video games all day long? Why do we have these habits in place? Why do we have these structures in place? These routines? Why? And you tell them why. It's like you're saying, here's what we believe, here's what we care about, and we're actually creating a life that demonstrates how much we care about that by what we do.
Right.
And we're going to do it over and over and over. So it becomes so normal, so
Hmm.
habitual that it's like, wow, how do you make so many good godly thoughts? How do you think like that? How do you have a safe place for God and a very unsafe place for the enemy? Oh,
Hmm.
habits, structures, building
Yeah.
a life by what you do over and over and over and over. And structure, even in discipline, structure is so important because it's like the kids know what to expect. If they don't know
Hmm.
what to expect, because anything could happen at any time. One time you're screaming, one time you're calm because you felt guilty because you were screaming, and then you spank them because you were so calm you didn't realize you were bottling all your stuff up. Now you're spanking their butts all the time, and then you start screaming again because you're really just angry at yourself because you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
these things go in these
Yeah.
cycles, and you're like, oh man, our kids have no idea what to expect from us. So even routines and like, hey, every time our kid comes and screams, we say, hey, I want to help you. Let's talk when your voice sounds like mine. Hey, try this. I'm actually creating a structure of how they, when I ask them questions, I'm building structures in their own heads Like I have
Yeah.
this routine of I ask questions, I pull this line out, I stay calm because I have this line, and you come down to my level. What am I training you? Then I ask you questions. So I'm training you to ask questions to yourself as well. So I feel super angry. I'm starting these questions just run in my head. Why? I built them inside of you with structure and routine and this expecting the same, knowing what to expect, which also keeps them powerful of their own life because they know exactly what to expect. If I scream
Yeah.
and yell for 20 minutes, I lose my 20-minute TV show. I don't want to lose my TV show, so I'm not going to scream anymore. And it's like now you built that inside them.
Yeah. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing on that.
Yeah,
And I think I love one of the things that you said too, where you explain why you have the structure.
yeah,
And I think oftentimes, like even today, I said one of the things I really feel we should remove out of our language for parenting is like, because I said so. I
yes.
know earlier you mentioned like, I need you to trust me in that. And I really love that.
There's times,
That
of course, where that's at like, hey, Dad, why can't I, you know, whatever? Why can't I have a knife? Why can't I have my own pocket knife? Okay,
right.
I need you to trust me that you're not ready for this. I'm going to say no. So there's elements to say, because I said so, I need you to trust me. But connection helps them trust. But there's other times where it's like, if it's not a pocket knife or playing in the road or playing on the roof or, it's like, I'll let you make make decisions that might affect you in a negative way. So then you realize like, oh, now I know why not to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I love that, and that's something I'm gonna definitely utilize, because I feel like just explaining more,
Yeah.
of why we're doing some of the newer things we're doing will just really help
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Especially as kids grow, we need more communication and more language
Yeah.
so that they're learning.
Yeah.
So how important then is consistency?
It's
That was a huge struggle of mine.
Yes, it's super important. Like,
Yeah,
think about this. So with boys don't develop their frontal lobe until they're 30 years old. I think for me, I was probably like 33. I don't know. It took a long time for me to get
yeah,
this. So boys especially don't come out, and the frontal lobe is where we get cause and effect thinking. So if I jump off the roof, I break my leg. This is why boys jump off the roof, break their leg, and you wonder why in the world are you on the roof? Because you
right.
don't have this, it's not developed yet to automatically put the pieces together and go jumping off the roof, breaking legs. They're like, that was so fun. Yes, I broke my leg, but that was so fun. So like being consistent in all of this, and when dad and mom are on the same page and you can really be consistent, oh my gosh, it's everyone stays so powerful because you all know what you're doing. The kids know what you're going to do if they do something. Everybody knows the playing field. Everyone knows the rules of the playing field. Everyone knows how the game is played. Everyone knows the plays. Everyone knows the moves. Everyone knows how to play together. That just gives everyone empowerment. So it removes a bunch of anger. I feel like I'm rambling a tiny bit, but
Yeah, no, it's great.
consistency is where it's like, my kid, the stuff they do over and over and over, it's like if I can be consistent in my discipline and my correction and my everything I'm doing, then I actually can train them to learn cause and effect long before it's natural. Long before
Mhm.
they're 30 years old, I can actually teach them, hey, you know
Yeah,
what, buddy? Yeah, you can spend all your money on those that you can spend your 20 bucks on 20 toys from the dollar store, or you could
yeah,
wait till you have 25 and buy that really awesome toy you've been wanting. And he buys 20 toys from the dollar store and he's like, well, these are all broken in 2 days. Like,
yeah,
yeah, you bought something from the dollar store. And how long is it going to take you to get your $25 thing you really wanted? Now I can't get it for a long time. I know, buddy. Man, that's no fun, huh? What am I doing? I'm training him to learn cause and effect.
yeah,
If I blow my money, I can't get what I really want. These cheap things are going to break. I didn't say, no, you can't buy dollar store stuff. It's going to break. I said, sure, if you
yeah,
want to, but it's going to mean you can't actually get the $25 thing till way later because all your money's gone. You're starting over or you're really close. Like, man, some people don't know that and they're 35, 40, 50 years old, still don't know that.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
so consistency teaches our kids to understand cause and effect way beyond their years. way
Yeah,
beyond its the natural capabilities.
that's awesome. Yeah, and I think it creates like where I looked at a lot of it as like, oh, this is creating like rigidity versus no, this is actually creating stability and
Yeah,
a feeling of safety, I
yeah,
feel, even like knowing like there's something comfortable about like being able to predict,
yeah,
okay, this is what we do here
yeah,
and we're going to continue in this. And yes, there's freedom. Today something might come up and will shift,
yeah,
but overall, this is actually creating a feeling of safety and security and a knowing what
yeah,
my environment's like instead
yeah,
of chaos
yeah,
or just, whatever it might be.
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, thank you so much. So, I want to be able to get to question and answer
Yeah.
time. However, I know that there are people coming on tonight and that will be on later. One of the big core values that I have for this group is the prophetic culture. And so we have some people that are really familiar with it, some people that are not, but are really eager to like learn.
Hmm.
And something for me, like since Hayden was young, it was really important for me to teach him how to sow, how to hear from God, how to, learn the prophetic, give prophetic words, all of that. And so that was like a huge thing for me. And now I love seeing him flow in that and
Yeah,
move in that. And I know that that's something that you're really about empowering kids and activating them in the prophetic and hearing from God and even healing as well.
yeah,
So I wanted to give you like the next say 8 to 10 minutes to kind of teach on that
yeah,
in a practical way if you can. And then we'll take maybe 5, 10 minutes and do some question and answer.
yeah. Well, I love the prophetic because the prophetic is where we get God's perspective on everything. So, if
Yeah.
I have a friend and I know how to go to God about my friend and ask questions, and I don't just get like a word for them, I get his heart for them, I get his mind for them, I get his perspective of them, I get what he thinks about them, no matter what they're doing or have done or whatever our relationship is. So the prophetic to me is super important because it fosters this relationship with God for our kids of like, hey, what's God showing you about this? What's God saying to you? And so teaching them how to do that to me is super valuable, super important. And we're all on that journey of our kids growing and growing all the time. But even Paul said, I pray that, or he said, what did he say? Pursue love, but
Hmm.
eagerly desire spiritual gifts, especially prophecy, because
Yeah.
of how it builds everyone up and it also gives you God's perspective. So, with kids, I think it's important to teach them why God talks to us. His plans for us are for good and not for evil, for a future and hope. So part of that verse, Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, which is implying I'm about to tell you my plans that I know because you don't know them. So part of
Yeah.
that is, I know the plans I have for you. Do you know them? Oh, if you don't, they're plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and hope. So why does God speak to us? Why does God want to be connected to us through the prophetic, through hearing his voice and stuff? It's so we know his plans, we know what he's up to, we know what he's doing. And yeah, we're like, okay, you have a plan for peace, not for evil. You have a plan to change this. You have a plan to fix this. And then, so that's one, also about the prophetic, it says to edification, exhortation, and comfort, 1 Corinthians 14:3. So
Hmm.
to edify, to exhort, and to comfort people, that's the voice of the Lord in the new covenant.
Hmm.
And so that's why God talks, but how God talks, the most common language in the Bible is visions and dreams. So like,
Hmm.
how did God make sure Jesus had a earthly father and lived in the right country so he didn't get killed? How did God protect him? Dreams, angels, visions, like so. Um, Dreams are a huge deal. Visions and pictures and stuff. So a lot of times when kids are learning to hear God, we'll say, "Let's ask God to tell us what He's doing," and then we say, "What did God say to you?" And so we've got kids that are automatically going, I didn't hear anything out loud
Hmm.
in English. So I don't
Yeah.
know. What did God say? Nothing. Okay, well, he
Mhm.
potentially used a different language, like visions, like a
Yeah.
picture, like an idea, like a thought. And so potentially he's not going to speak out loud in English. He might use the language of pictures. And so instead of saying, what did God say to you? I like to say, what's the first thing that popped in your mind? So even if
Yeah.
it's just an idea, it's like, well, I thought about a cloud. All right. And now what's happening with the cloud? Well, now it's, and they're fully engaged in their imagination and just looking into
Yeah.
whatever God showed them. It's like,
Mhm.
was it Elisha or Elisha that's like, I see a cloud the size of a man's hand. Go look.
Yeah.
Or no, I see a cloud. The great rain is coming. And the guy goes, no, there's a cloud the size of a man's hand. Finally, it's like, oh no, he was seeing rain, but
Yeah.
you couldn't see it on the outside yet. But he's like telling you what he sees. Go look for
Mhm.
that. And so
Yeah.
asking them that question, I think, is huge. What's the first thing that
Yeah.
popped in your mind?
Mhm.
This. Then they're not limited to, you're going to speak English and you're going to speak out loud. It's going to pop in
Mhm.
my head, probably. It's going to be a thought. It's going to be a picture. It's going to be an idea. Um,
Mhm.
the imagination's a huge deal in the Bible as well. So kids are really
Yeah.
good at engaging their imaginations, and adults are really bad. And we're the ones that have to repent and become like them to enter the kingdom. So, you know,
Yeah.
little kids are really good. Actually, the word imagination in the Greek language can also be translated as heart. And often in the Bible, there's a couple places. So, the heart's a really important element to faith. So that means the imagination is a super important element to faith. And God will speak in our imagination, but because it feels like it's just an idea we had, sometimes we dismiss it. And so I don't ever want kids to dismiss a quick thought from God.
Mhm.
Bill Johnson, our pastor, he always said, that quick thought, that quick picture that pops in your imagination for a half a second, it's the visual equivalent to the still small voice, where it's like, there was lightning, there was an earthquake, there was thunder, there was fire, and then God actually showed up in a still small voice. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
so that quick little picture, it's like, that's the visual version of the still small voice.
Mhm.
And it comes so quick and so simple that we can dismiss it because we were expecting out loud English rather than a little picture real quick. So
Yeah.
teaching our kids how he talks and why he talks, that helps them discern what's his voice and what's not. It's like,
Mhm.
God's really angry at my friend. Okay, well, you're hearing your own thoughts of
Yeah.
revenge and saying it's God because
Yeah.
you're just overwhelmed right now. So let's give it a little bit of time. Let's give it a little bit of space. Remember, God builds, He edifies, He exhorts, He comforts, He builds people up, He cheers them up, He draws them closer to Him. Remember, He's got plans for them too, to give them a
Yeah.
future and a hope and peace and not for evil. So how can you make peace instead of take revenge? And like helping them, if they know why He talks, it's easier to discern if He's not talking,
Mhm.
you know. And if you know how He talks, it's easier to hear Him.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like there's anywhere I could go with this. When it comes to
Yeah.
teaching our kids healing, it's like, in the Bible, Jesus never told his disciples to pray for the sick. He told them to heal the sick. Like, hey, as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Like, he didn't say go pray for the sick. He said go heal the sick. Like, that's a crazy deal. And
Yeah.
every time those guys healed the sick, whether it was Jesus, whether it was Paul, whether it was Peter, like they told that thing. They told people what to do. Try do something you couldn't do, and they told sickness where to go. And so,
Yeah.
we teach kids like, and the beautiful thing about kids is like they're like they could beg God, and He'd answer them just because they're begging Him in trust, and they don't know any different. But
Yeah.
really, we don't want kids begging for something God said to just release and give away. Like go give away healing. So, we tell them like you get to be the boss of sickness. We know you like to boss your brother and sister around, and but you can boss sickness around, and it's really really good. God wants you to tell it what to do, so you can even be a little bit mean and just like sickness get out. And so,
Yeah.
those are some of the elements, the key elements of introducing that stuff to our kids and then giving them an opportunity to try stuff. Like when me and my kids pray for someone in public, it's like sometimes they're like, nope, I don't want to pray. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna. And so I'll pray for them, or Sometimes in church they're like, "Can I go give prophetic words?" I'm like, "Yes, go," and I follow them around and they let it rip. Other times they're like, this is another thing I would say that I think is super important. There's other times when my kids are like, "No, no, no, no." I'm like, come on, go lay hands on someone, go pray for someone, go give them a word. No, no, no. I'm really
No.
careful too. Like, I want to discern with God when it's time to push them and when it's time to back off, and not to put
Yeah.
that pressure on. Because sometimes my kids are like, "No, I don't want to pray for someone." I'm like, "Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm not
Absolutely.
gonna force you to, because I'd rather have you do this on your own. And so I'll go pray for someone, and if they get healed right in front of your eyes, you're gonna be like, "Dude, that was awesome. That was really
Yes.
awesome. Like, I should have prayed too." I'm like, okay, I don't have to tell you that. You
Okay.
get that on your own. Um, and also keeping that pressure off. I think that's a huge deal. Is not pressuring our kids into that
Yeah.
stuff, but like bringing them into a real lifestyle of it, where it's just there's not pressure, but it's around. I think is really
Yeah.
important. Like, hey, we're gonna practice hearing God, and they're like, "No, no, I don't want to." You sure? Pry a little
Yeah.
bit, but if you feel like don't force them, don't force them. But if you feel like no, you actually need to pray for someone right now. And that's all just again following Him, being led by Him, listening to
Yeah.
Him in the middle of it all. But so
Mhm.
when it comes to healing, doing ministry with God, working with God, I think not
Mm.
pressuring them and not forcing them is a huge deal. Encouraging
Yeah.
them, creating a place for it to happen, for them to try, celebrating risk, not results is always important too. You know,
Yeah.
um, but those are some
Celebrating
key.
that celebrating risk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
celebrating that you went for it, whether they got
Yeah.
healed, whether your word was right, whether anything like that. Like celebrating that
Yeah.
you actually trusted God and went for it versus, wow, they got healed, yay, good job. No, like you believed God. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You didn't get
Right.
healed. Let's find the next person. Let's get them.
Right.
So those are
Yeah.
some fundamental elements of hearing God, ministering to the sick, and leading our kids in that. And those are some three places where it's like how He talks, why He talks. You do get the boss sickness around, and
Mhm.
yeah, just not pressuring them, letting it be easy and flowy, and you know,
Yeah.
in regular life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
love all those points that you brought up, especially imagination. Like, I know when I first started navigating this and helping Kaden learn, um, one of the things that my mentor told me, because he was having encounters in the spirit that I hadn't had, and I was like, okay, what is this going on right now? Like going to heaven or seeing angels and things like that. I'm like, what is happening? And I was getting fearful. Like, how far do I let him go
yeah,
with this and like with this language? What if I'm not helping him like steward this right? And a friend of mine, mentor, helped me with that and just said, like, let him go with his imagination. This is part of him learning right now. And you trusting that, like, God cares for him more than you do. And if there's something that you need to know or whatever it might be, God will like rein him back in or share with you.
yeah,
But like, let him enjoy this freedom of imagination
yeah,
right now. And he was actually having real encounters. I was just a little bit afraid
yeah,
that maybe I would let him go too far. And
yeah,
she was like, you don't have to worry about that. God talks to children through imagination. And so I love that you brought that up.
yeah,
Because that was hard for me because at the time I couldn't even relate with that. Like I could relate dreams and visions, but that was about as far as I could go
yeah,
in my mind.
yeah,
So I love how you talked about like we need to become more like children.
yeah,
And almost I don't know that you use this word, but like less logical
yeah,
and in a sense.
yeah,
So and I love also, I just wanted to say, how you talked about honoring, like basically honoring where your kid's at. We'll bring Caden on. Chris and I will do prophetic call outs and we love that. And Caden comes on, he thrives in that. He's like,
yes,
yep, I want to be on that and I'm
yeah,
ready. And he really enjoys that. But there are times where I'm like, hey, will you pray for so and so, maybe a friend, or hey, you want to tap in and like get a word for them. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
And I learned, like, I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to be like, you need to do this right now. Like, they're human and they have emotion and they have things just like we do.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're not feeling it or we're not sensing it.
Yeah.
And I love that, like honoring where they're at in that moment too.
Yeah.
It's not about the performance and numbers or doing this and this. It's just like, yeah, honoring and to I like how you were talking about like when to challenge them too. So thank you so much. Those were all incredible points. And I know you have so much on each of these topics. You
Oh
could
yeah,
keep
I
going.
could teach forever on this stuff. It feels like, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. But I don't want to keep you too long. We'll take some questions.
Yeah.
So if you have questions, I'm on with Seth Dahl, and I would love for you. We're going to be wrapping up. And so if you're on live with us now, or even later, if you have some questions and whatnot, you can always connect with Seth. I know Chris has been putting his information